Welcome everyone to our new episode today. Today our guest is Brian. Brian will talk about anxiety, panic attack, and the agoraphobia. Brian has been living with the anxiety since kid, and he here today with us to help us understand how anxiety works and how can we control it. Brian, welcome to the show.
Nice to be here, Hasler. Thanks for inviting me.
Before we jump inside our topic today, I want to know more about you. Where you came from?
Originally born in New Jersey, short stint there, moved to Connecticut, but I really grew up in Rhode Island. Moved there in my beginning of my sophomore year, and we moved. We were there for 40-something years, and we've been coming to Chatham, which is where I met you, for about 18 years. We summered here. We had a house here. I bought a house here about 18, 19 years ago. And about 3 years ago, we decided to move here full time. So we sold the house in Rhode Island, and now we're full time Shores.
Okay, so did you go to college, something like that?
I did not go to college. I graduated in 1979 and then right out of high school, I went to work for my father's plastic packaging company.
Okay, what's the reason you miss a college?
Number one, I really wasn't a person that loved school. And number two, I really wanted to start making money. So I worked for my father in the summertime. And then what happened was I started to do okay, and I started to become a pretty good mechanic because what we did was we manufactured plastic containers like this here. And I was a mechanic on the machines, and I started to become pretty good at it. And I started to make a little bit of coin, and I decided that was the way to go.
Okay, tell me more about your childhood. I was a child at that time with no internet, no iPhone.
I think it's a blessing and a curse, actually. So when we're talking about anxiety.
Yeah.
So when I was a young boy, it starts at a very, very early age. I was more nervous than most people. And as you get older, it develops into what I call an anxiety tree. And as you can see, I wrote the book, the second book written has a picture of a tree on it. Because sometimes the only way I can describe what anxiety is, what panic is, it starts, as I mentioned, in an early age. And as you get into your teens and as you get into your 20s, that, I call it the beast, it develops roots and it develops a thick trunk and it develops limbs. And by that, I mean, when you have these fears, these irrational fears.
When did you realize that you are not a regular kid? You
16 years old.
16.
I was walking through a mall with my best friend and I had to get out.
What's happened exactly?
There was this it was an irrational fear that I had to, I'll say it was claustrophobia, but it really wasn't. It was, I had to get to a safe place. And the only safe place I really knew was outside. It wasn't enclosed in the mall. And I was actually, as I mentioned, 16. So when you're afraid to actually enter a mall, now what happens, those trees, the branches on these trees are everything you're afraid of. If you're afraid to go to a mall, now you're afraid to go to the post office. You're afraid to get a haircut. You're afraid to have sleepovers. Everything you do, you think of these two horrible words, what if? And the what if, there's never anything good that comes after what if. What if I can't breathe? What if I faint? What if I pass out? What if I throw up? What if I embarrass myself in front of my peers, my friends? And it entrenched itself into every aspect of my life. So from 16, when it reared an ugly head, it crippled me until I was in my 20s and late 20s, till I actually found out what it was at 37 years old.
Okay, well, when you realize that the struggle that you have been with is a panic attack and anxiety and the agoraphobia, when you realize it,
Well, fortunately or unfortunately, we didn't have computers. We didn't have the internet.
at that time, yeah.
The other problem was, and I'm going to say this because I preach it now, is I never told anybody. My wife is my high school sweetheart, and we got married in 1986. And there's a chapter in the book called The Wedding,
Mm-hmm.
and you read about it.
Sure.
And how many people can say it was one of the worst moments of my life? Because I'm this, well, my wife is really the center of attention, but I'm the center of attention. And there are 200 of our friends and family there. And I had to get out of there. So for the first hour of the wedding, it was horrible.
Do you have any history in your family with anxiety?
As far as I know, I do not.
So where your anxiety came from? Is a genetic problem, a social problem?
Well, now that I know what it was, I did extensive reading on it. I went to a psychiatrist, actually, and not for a long period of time. Once I found out what it was, I had to fix it. And going back to my original job, I'm a fix-it person. I have to fix problems, and I used to fix them with my hands because they were machines. These machines ran 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 48 working weeks a year.
Yeah.
Now I had to fix my head. And there's a saying that I have in there, the longer, the longer. So the longer you suffer, the longer it starts out as nervousness, then it turns into anxiety, and anxiety turns into panic. And the worst was agoraphobia, which is what I suffered from, which is an absolute fear of leaving your safe space because you never, ever know what's going to happen.
Is agoraphobia?
Agoraphobia.
Or they come together or one by one? Or
No.
explain to me, I don't know, man.
That's okay. I mean, it's not many people do because thankfully, not many people get to that point of agoraphobia because now we have medications. Now we have mental help. People, psychiatrists, psychologists, and most people, when they have these issues, hopefully they can go at an early age and get help. Whereas at my age, I'm 63, I was in my teens. I couldn't watch any medical TV. Like, for instance, there's a show called Emergency. Mm-hmm. You're too young to remember that.
I remember your book. No.
In my book. Anything where there was any medical problems going on or anything where it would cause me nervousness, I had to leave the room. And I never told my father, never told my mother, I never told anybody because I didn't want to.
What's your relationship with your father?
Now it's I worked for my father. I'll just say that it's not as strong as it used to be when I was a kid because he was my hero. And what happens is when you work for anybody in your family, you find out flaws. Like, I'm sure if my kids worked for me, they'll find out that I'm not Superman. Well, okay. Maybe they won't, but no, I'm only kidding. No, because you find out what's going on, and me and my dad clashed. So we do not get along at all anymore.
Yeah. Why you didn't share with nobody? Why you hide just for you?
Well, the truth is, and I used to think, going back, and I don't mean to bounce around, but when you sell, I used to think salesman was all a bunch of bullshit. You had to bullshit to become a great salesman until I learned the opposite. The same thing with me, and I'll share something personal with you. My wife is beautiful. She's a wonderful woman. And I didn't want to show weakness because she went to college. We both went out with different people and we met at the end. And I didn't want to show her this 240-pound guy who was a gym rat, who was a bouncer for 12 years, had a weakness. And the weakness, unfortunately, I could not describe to her. How do you explain to somebody, anybody, what are you afraid of? Everything. I'm afraid to leave the house. I am petrified. Your thoughts, the horrible thoughts you have in your mind, far exceed far exceed the possible thoughts that could, I mean, the possible, the realized, the real things that could possibly happen to you. And I'm not talking about horrific events of war and things like that. I'm talking about irrational fears, because 99.9% of the things never happened.
Yeah.
But you always thought they were going to happen.
Okay.
And that's what it was.
Okay. The question is, when you feel uncomfortable or you feel afraid about something? So there's a difference between them.
Absolutely. Anxiety is a thought process. It's a feeling that you start, and without getting into all the physiological aspects of it, you start to feel nervous, you start to shake. The panic attack is when it becomes very physical, which is what I had. I had to get out. And you told me you read the book. The panic attacks of me being on a bridge, the panic attacks of me being on a plane, that's when you have to get out. And I've been put in the back of police cars many times. I've run off of planes many times. I've run off out of my car on a bridge, which again, I share. This is a snippet of things.
What about in the night? You can stay in the home at night alone?
Again, so my wife was a flight attendant for a few years. And so I was a mechanic. I had a gym. I used to come home. So that was and I went out. I used to go out a lot. And booze was something that, I drank. I didn't drink in the morning. I wasn't an alcoholic. But when I went out, we drank. Like most teenagers. And that was something that it suppressed the anxiety. Later on in life, I learned that alcohol is not the way, because what happens is if you drink alcohol, it suppresses it. But that when the alcohol leaves your body, it snaps up like a rubber band, the anxiety, which causes anxiety attacks. But to answer your question, when I was alone, the one example I'll give you was if I didn't get a buddy of mine to sleep over my house, I used to sleep on the floor with keys. We used to have keys. We didn't have fobs. On my pinky, in my tighty whities, with my pants, my shirt next to the door. We were in a condo. And if I woke up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, let's say after the alcohol wore off, because it was a weekend, because she used to fly, let's say Thursday, Friday, Saturday, come back Sunday, I'd run in my car and drive to a hospital, which was about 2 miles away. And I would sleep in the hospital parking lots. And I did this hundreds of times, 20, 30, 40, hundreds of times, because I knew help was inside, but I didn't know what help was. What was I going to tell them when I walked in? That I'm afraid of living? I never thought of suicide, ever.
Okay.
But I thought this beast was going to kill me. Does that make sense? In some sort of way?
Yeah.
And I could tell you a lot of stories of, it's embarrassing now, but it's the truth. And sometimes the embarrassing truth helps people realize. I'll give you one scenario. When I used to sell, if there was a robe in a hotel, I used to tie the robe around my ankle to the bottom of the couch, because I used to think in the middle of the night, God forbid, this beast was going to make me jump off the balcony.
Damn.
Kill myself.
Wow.
And then I'm up all night. I've never, years ago,
Think about it. Yeah.
I never slept. Once you're up, I can't say, okay, you know what? It's only whatever it was, go back to bed. And this was for decades. This wasn't like for a week, a month, a year. And as you progress, it gets worse and worse and worse.
But never dad, your mom, your friend, your brother realize that something's wrong with you? Never?
Dude, I'm a good salesman.
What you did?
I'm a good salesman. I hit it. You know, it's funny, when I wrote the book, and this isn't a question you asked me, but I will tell you this. When I wrote the book, it was like I came out of the closet. Wrote the book, I believe, in 2016. So it was quite a few years ago. And I wrote the book because a dear friend of mine was going through some marital problems. And when he was telling me what was going on, I realized that she was suffering from major anxiety. And I explained to him, I'll call him Tom, but that's not his real name. I was explaining to him what she's going through. And he loved her and he wanted to help her. So I sat with her and him, and they're still together to this year. That was 30 years ago, 25, 30 years ago. And he said to me, can I swear in here? He says, Brian, you got to write a fucking book. I'm a very private person.
Yeah.
Very private. So for me to write a book about my experiences, so I was telling my wife, and and I told him, she said, it might not be a bad idea, because at this time, obviously she knew. I don't mean to fast forward and jump around. So I said, okay, now I can't write. But what I did was I spoke into my phone, and it was the first chapter, which is now not the first chapter in the book, but it was titled The Wedding. Because I wanted her to understand the severity in our honeymoon. Honeymoon was horrible. How many guys have said, my honeymoon is horrible?
Where is it? Was it Hawaii, what?
It was in Antigua.
Okay.
No phones, no TVs, no nothing. Getting back to that, I wrote that, I gave it to her. She started crying because she read it. She was pissed. She almost didn't talk to me for 2 days because she did not know the severity of it. She didn't know the severity of it until I honestly wrote the book.
Really?
Yeah, there's no reason. She knew it. Obviously, she's the one to talk me into getting help. But, to tell stories about the honeymoon, and by the way, it was 1986. If you're a Red Sox fan, you probably know what's going on in 86. We got married October 18th. Guess who was in the World Series? Playing the Mets. Okay, so I'm in Antigua. There's no TVs.
Yeah.
So our wedding was a lot of people with the little earplugs and listen to the radio. So I'm in Antigua, and it's paradise. And we get to fly there for free because my wife was a flight attendant. And we went to this wonderful place. And during the day, it was wonderful. But at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, I started to get anxious. I started to drink because I knew it was coming at nighttime. And I won't get into all the particulars about that. But after we went to bed, she fell asleep, I was up. And I used to go outside trying to find solace, trying to find some peace. And I'd sit in the bathroom and I'd listen to the radio. And believe it or not, the only thing they played during the night on the radio, I read all the obituaries for that day. So not only...
Nightmare.
That did not, inspire me, if you want to say that. And I just sat in the bathroom, and then about 4:30, 5 o'clock, I snuck into bed. And I lied. How'd you sleep? And if she got up, I'd say, I'm just went to the bathroom. And that was 7 days of that. I never slept. Never slept. It was horrible.
Yeah. So in the book, you talk about the level 1, 2, 3, 4. Where this number came from? Is that your number or?
It's my number.
Okay.
It was because, again, after I found out what it was, I did speaking engagements because I'm petrified to speak in public. So it's pretty ironic that I became I don't want to say professional speaker, but because I wanted to get the word out. If I could do it, you can too, to use that phrase. And I wanted people to know, and I still want people to know that it's okay to show weakness. And it's even better to get help if you have this problem. So when I used to be on stage, I used to tell people, because you could hear it in my voice. I mean, when your heart's beating at 200 beats per minute, you can hear it.
Yeah.
So I used to tell people at my first book launch, I can't remember the date, I wrote it down, but I was petrified. Adley Hospital, which is the Center for Pediatric Anxiety and Panic, who gets the profits for whatever books I sell, they were there, the president, the vice president, all the psychiatrists, because they heard about my book. It was number 1 on Amazon for about 4 to 5 weeks. It was amazing how many people bought this book. And they heard me speak.
Was successful.
Yeah. And they interviewed me because they wanted to make sure what I said was real. And it took about 6 minutes for them to say, we would like you to speak at our reunion. So every year at the reunion, I talk to the parents.
Okay.
I don't talk to the kids because I want the parents to
No.
realize what their kids are going through and also see me and say, I've been fairly successful, so there's a way out. There is help.
Okay. So, what's the highest level that you achieve in your panic attack?
Well, to me, 10 was death. So I never said 10. 9 was high. When I was on the plane going through my honeymoon,
Yeah.
it was 6 hours of 9. So that's like somebody.
It's a lot.
Yeah. No,
Long time.
a lot of times you'll hear,
Yeah.
you don't understand, or, no, I don't think he's telling it. And I have absolutely no problem with that. When I look around and I see what I've accomplished,
Mm-hmm.
and I see my family and my kids and all that I've been through, that's how I did it.
Okay. So before you go there, you get married in 1986. Okay.
I got
So-
married. Yes.
Yeah. So tell me more about your wife.
My wife,
Mm-hmm.
my wife was a go-getter. She was a bank manager. She was she did very well. Whatever job she went for, she got. She graduated University of Rhode Island.
Mm-hmm.
And then she wanted to travel. She wanted me to travel, and she became a flight attendant.
Yeah.
One of the reasons she became not the only reason, was to see places, but also the benefits were that we could fly anywhere. And what's very strange is every time we planned a trip, I got sick. And when I went to see a psychiatrist, they used to tell me, your mind, which I know, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
so powerful that it can make you physically sick. And I used to get physically sick. February was vacation week for the kids. And I used to get physically sick February vacation. And a lot of times we didn't go because I was just too sick to fly.
Wow.
And it started weeks before we were going to fly.
So wife knew your problem, your condition when you decide to write a book,
So
or before that?
yes, I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning. This was the turning point. I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and there was an infomercial on called Midwest Center for Panic and Anxiety. And there was a woman on called Lucinda Bissett. And she was describing every feeling, every thought, every single thing that I had. And I was so excited. I started crying. I could feel it now because I didn't have adrenal cancer.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have I wasn't going crazy. I had something that had a name. So again, being the fix-it guy, if it had a name, I could fix it. So what I did was I bought all her tapes. Well, getting back, when my wife came home because she was flying, I told her. And we both started crying, and it explained so much because all the excuses. One excuse I'll tell you, this is just one business excuse. I used to travel, and if I couldn't handle it, if I couldn't go any further, I used to know all the exits to the hospital. I took a Toyota pickup truck and smashed it into a telephone pole on purpose so I could lie to my wife and tell her I got in an accident. I got to come home. So all these different. Oh, I could tell you stories. Unfortunately, that would make your head spin. That unfortunately it's embarrassing now. I laugh at it now, but it got me to a point. And I think, as cliche as it sounds, I was kind of put in that position to help people,
Mm-hmm.
especially my kids, because my kids have a little bit of it.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter had it at
Which
7,
one?
8
We
years.
got two kids, Jen and Mike. Which
Jen
one?
and Mike, thank you. Yep, Jen started to have it. We were in Naples, Florida. We were in a very nice hotel.
How did you realize that?
I'm sorry.
How did you realize that Jen is in trouble with anxiety?
When you are an expert at what it is, you know because I explained to her
Yeah.
what she was feeling. When you explain to somebody what they're feeling, they realize he knows what he's doing. I used to get on planes, just relax. Oh, that's it. Just relax. Now I know what the answer is. I used to make it worse because in my head, people can realize, they can see that I'm petrified. And that made it worse because if they can see it, that means that it's really bad. But 9 to me was the worst. And I used to explain to people as I was talking to them, answering your question. Sorry, it took me a while. And as I was talking to them, I'd say, I'm at a 7. I'm at a 5. And the most comfortable I ever was at a 2 or a 3 when I used to talk. But I was able to use my healing thought process that I came up with when I was speaking to crowds, so they realize it does work. Especially as hard as I had it, as bad as I had it, and all the crap I went through. He's standing in front of Dean College, 1,700 people, bearing my soul. And here I am, and all of a sudden telling them I'm petrified to speak in public, but I'm doing it. And that's what the scared to death do it anyway. And I always tell people, how can I, and I have pictures of my son and my daughter on stage with me. Nobody could see it but me. And I used to tell the people out there, how can I possibly not do this if I'm telling my kids to face their fears? Even though it's irrational, even though it's horrific, you got to be able to drop your armor, which is one of the things that I teach people. Let it come. It's not going to kill you.
But how did you call Jen explainer about anxiety?
I didn't explain to her about anxiety. I explained to her what she was going through.
Yeah.
And I told her it was going to be okay. Because I said, do you feel shaky?
Mm-hmm.
And again, she's 30. She's got kids.
Yeah.
So this was quite a long time ago. But I remember being there, and I remember, you're kind of shaky right now.
Was it soccer game, right?
No, she was in bed. She was sleeping.
Okay.
We were going to sleep. But this was something, that's another one. But she was, and I told her all the symptoms. And I kind of scared her a little bit so that she really knew that I knew what I was talking about. I didn't want to just say, do you feel a little shaky? Do you feel nervous? I went in depth into what she possibly, is your heart going fast? Don't worry, that's going to slow down. I said, let's count to 3 and it'll slow down. Things like that. But it's your dad talking. So she trusted me. Mm-hmm. And by trusting me, it went down. And after a while, the monster, the beast, it's, again, I equate it to like a bully. If you're dealing with a bully in school, the bully's affecting you, the bully is always going to pick on you.
Yeah, sure.
But if you let the bully come and you laugh at it, after a while, it goes to somebody else. And that was the start of that was the toughest thing for me to do, is learn not to fight. Once you learn not to fight, that's when the healing starts. Let it come. It's not going to kill you. And once you do that, that's when the healing thought process starts.
Okay. What about Mike? Suffer same thing? Your son?
Mike did not have the anxiety. Everybody's got anxiety.
Yeah,
everybody's got anxiety. Everybody. But Mike didn't have the panic. Mike didn't have that part of it. Jen, if I didn't know what it was, she could have turned into an anxiety. It could have turned into panic. But it never would have gotten that far because I knew what it was and I would have got her help. And at a very young age, we would have got her help. But so on that part, and plus the book signings and not the hundreds, the thousands of people I've spoken to. And I've gotten emails from Argentina, from South America, all over the world, forget the United States. But one person couldn't get on a plane for Thanksgiving to see her family. And I spoke with her on the phone. And she started crying and she thanked me when she landed, via text. And
how many people suffer with the anxiety in the United States?
Anxiety?
Yeah.
Well, again, COVID hit in 2021.
22.
22.
Not 20, COVID 20, yeah.
Yeah, 20. So it was so Dean College was February of 20 for me. That was my last talk. In fact, I made a commercial for Cox TV about mental illness because now mental illness is a big thing. In fact, May is Mental Illness Month. I spoke quite a bit then. And it's a mental illness. It's something. Years ago, they used to put people in mental institutions. Now we have tools. I hate to use the word pharmaceuticals, but if it helps you, then take it. If it's something that you need to do. I'm fortunate enough that, again, being a fix-it guy, once I realized what it was and I started to read and read and read, dude, I fixed this thing. And it took 10 years because I had it all my life. So it took, I would say, good 10 years for me to finally, and it's still there. I mean, I'm not dancing it. I still, my biggest, I can't fall asleep on a plane. I mean, we just came back from Europe. I was there 2 weeks. I can't imagine 15, 20 years ago, even thinking about getting on a plane to go to Europe. Never, and everything we did on gondolas and traveling and buses and trains and all these things, all those places, I never would, elevators and nothing.
Yeah. But today, what kind of tool that you developed to overcome this problem?
So my number one tool
want to do that
today, yes. And I got another book signing, but at the Yellow Bookstore, I did one where Casey Sherman saw me. There was a person, and the number one tool, they asked the same question. I said, is drop your armor. It's the hardest thing you have to do when you suffer, is drop your armor. Now, what does that mean? That means exactly that. Don't fight it. Jackie Robinson, the baseball player, years ago, his boss, because he used to fight because of everything that was going on in the world at that time, racism, so on and so forth.
Social problem, yeah.
And the reason he wanted Jackie Robinson, wanted somebody strong enough not to fight. And I should have brought it with me. But when I get on a plane, my drug is reading my notes. And the first thing is, I want somebody strong enough not to fight. It's still written there. And the longer, I mean, the longer you have it, the longer it's going to take. Don't let a bad day ruin it. It will get better. Do the things you fear, and fear will leave. And people might say these are just cliche sayings, but believe me when I tell you, they work. And the other big thing is, don't drink. If you ever go to an airport at 8 o'clock in the morning and you see people drinking at a bar, they're not drinking because they're trying to have fun. They're drinking because they're trying to calm themselves down. Maybe 2% of the people are because, hey, we're going on vacation. But I can guarantee you, having been through it, that a lot of those people are drinking because they're petrified to fly.
Wow.
That's what they do. So I stopped talking about this topic after COVID. I mean, right after COVID. I did Zoom calls. Now I do Zoom calls, business coaching. I do a lot of business coaching. But I don't do this anymore because people used to think it's medicinal, meaning that it makes me feel better talking about it. It actually does not. It brings up old wounds. And I used to feel really bad after I did a talk at Willow Bend. I don't know if you know where Willow Bend is. It's on the Cape. And I did a dramatization, can't say the word. It was a drama. Make it easy. Can't do full or syllable words. So I can't write a book. And called it The Beast. And The Beast was on stage with me because I was speaking in public. And it was very powerful. It was Matt Pitta, who ran a radio station, was the host.
How did you defeat the beast?
I defeated the beast.
How?
By using the tools, letting it come, and saying, come get me. And it sounds ridiculous. But finally I realized it's got a name. It's got a name. It's like if you ever seen The Terminator, Arnold Schwarzenegger. If it bleeds, we can kill it. This has got a name. So if it's got a name, anxiety, panic, agoraphobia, let's work backwards. And what I used to do, unfortunately, years ago, there was a place near my supermarket. And I used to test myself and going back to the supermarket and see how long I can stay there before I ran out of the store.
So,
These are the things I mean, this is nothing. I mean, I could sit here for 3 hours to tell you.
is it like exercise or training or something?
It was trying to defeat the beast by fighting it. And I used to go to, again, the mall. I used to go to auto museums. I used to go on cruise ships.
Yeah.
The first thing I did, my wife never did this, I'd go downstairs to the medical center just to make sure they had one. And God forbid something happens, I could get help there. But I always used to fight and test myself until I realized that's the wrong thing to do. The right thing to do is let it come. Don't fight it. If you fight it, it's like fighting a bully that's 5 times the size of you. You're never going to win. Stop drinking. It's not the answer to suppress the anxiety. It makes it far worse when it comes back like a rubber band. The other important one to realize is nobody's coming. That takes a while to realize, but the only one that can help is you. And once you realize that it's anxiety, it's always going to be anxiety. Have you ever seen The Sopranos? I don't know if you've seen it. He suffered from panic attacks. He fainted. I've been talking and I've read, nobody I know has ever fainted from anxiety or panic. Nobody. And I've talked to hundreds, if not thousands of people. And everybody that's had. And the other thing is they equate having a phobia with agoraphobia. Oh, I know. I know what you mean. I'm petrified to go over a bridge. Oh, I know what you mean. I hate elevators. Those are phobias.
Yeah.
Agoraphobia is when you're afraid to get in your car, past your neighborhood, drive down the highway, and have to get off to go help. And the whole business topic is a book in itself. How I grew a business all based on sales, meeting people, making excuses to run out of the office to go get stuff out of my car, running back in because I was young. And they had to put trust in me.
Sure.
And that's a whole nother topic, is how I built up one of the biggest, largest plastics company in the country, which we just sold.
Yeah. So powerlifting gym.
Yeah.
Yeah. How they can help you with the anxiety?
Well, lifting in the gym, I've had many gyms in my life and I've been to gyms all over the world. And when I first started, I used to work out to get my adrenaline out, my cortisol, and just get it out. Whatever it was, and I got pretty strong doing it because it was a lot of aggression and a lot of fear and a lot of, but unfortunately, when I traveled and I used to go to these gyms, I used to have to put a suit on and meet people out for dinner after that. But if you're going into a shower in a gym, as I'm in the shower, I'm like, I got to get out of here. How do you run by 20, 30 Joe Tough guys? Like, what the hell's wrong with this guy running out naked? So I used to wear tighty whities in the shower just in case something happened, and it gave me confidence that I could leave. There's so many things that I look back at now and just,
I love it, man.
yeah, they're funny now, but it wasn't funny before. Yeah. I could tell you. So getting back to powerlifting. So I started to get stronger and stronger, and I had another gym. I bought a gym, and there were bodybuilders in there, and I didn't feel like putting the tighty whities on and standing in front of people. And so I got into powerlifting. The other thing was I didn't think I could stand in front of an audience without running off the stage, and I got pretty good at it. The problem was when you do a squat, they make you look out into the audience. Now, it's very difficult to put 600 pounds on your shoulders and not hyperventilate and go down and up with 600 pounds on your shoulder. So it was short-lived because I couldn't get through it. Because this was the height of when I was dealing with it. But I call my book Intense Focus Training. And you go to my gym, so you'll understand. Sometimes if you haven't seen, I go very, very heavy. I go short reps because in my head, that's what helped me years ago. I wasn't a rep guy. I never did 15, 20, 30 reps. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just the heavy weight helped me because in that moment in time, I couldn't think of anything else lifting that weight. I'm lifting whatever I'm lifting without sounding like that guy, and I don't mean to. But if you got 500 pounds on a machine, you're not going to be thinking of, oh no, what if? After this, I have to drive to, you're not thinking about that.
Yeah.
In that short period of 30, 40 seconds, you're only thinking of that weight. And that intense focused training, which I still do to this day, unbeknownst to me, help me physically. It's one of the things in my toolbox. It's getting over the anxiety and panic by lifting heavy weights. And I didn't even know it at the time, but it did. It helped me get through it. So it helped me release the cortisol. It helped me relieve, the adrenaline, and it just helped me. Another facet was the physical part of it, the physicality part of it.
If I have a kid at home, I don't know nothing about anxiety. I can realize that my kid suffer with that.
How do you realize?
Yeah.
Well, there's a difference between being shy and there's a fine line, because when your kids are young, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, which my grandkids are, they're 4 and 2. There's a fine line between being shy, and then the other side is having anxiety, because every single solitary person on this planet at one point or another has anxiety, which means a fear of something, whether it be a level 2, 3, 5, whatever it might be. We all have it. As far as for kids, I always say the thing to look for is when they get a little older, do they make excuses not to go to school? Do they make excuses if you know they're good athletes because you play with them in the backyard? This is something for everybody to understand, because I talk to parents about this. If you know they're good at soccer, they don't want to join the soccer team, they'll make up an excuse. Kids are smart. If they have sleepovers, I know this for a fact, and you find out there's 3 kids in their class that are going to the sleepover, but they don't want to go. That's a very important sign, because that's telling you there's really no sports involved, but they're going to be alone with their thoughts at night. I would say that's literally number 1, because I remember. And there's chapters in my book about sleepovers. Yeah. And even my parents, they didn't know. I don't blame them, because we didn't talk. Nobody talked about it back then. Now we know. And you can nip it in the bud when you see these things. And if you see it and you can explain to them, if you ask the question, is there something you're afraid of? And ask the questions. Make them talk to you. And if they don't want to talk to you, have them talk to somebody else, because it's so important. If I've been talking for longer than a half hour, the most important 5 seconds that I can tell who's ever listening, as well as you, is make sure that they talk and open up and explain what they're feeling. Because it's like taking a Band-Aid and starting to take it off. It's just so important.
Okay. So did you regret because you didn't share with your dad since the beginner?
Yeah. Do I regret? Is that what you said, regret?
Yeah. If you regret, you should share with them since the beginner, since teenager, or...
My dad grew up like most people my age. My dad grew up in Brooklyn, New York. He worked at Sheepshead Bay. He was a fish. He worked on the docks. So he'd probably look at me and say, get over it. Suck it up. Get over it. Well, it's easy to say. Yeah. But when you have it severely, and again, I'm not blaming them, because I'm guessing. Again, I didn't want to show weakness to my father. Why would I show weakness to my father? I was in his hip. Everything he did, I was right next to him. When he worked, I went to work with him. Whatever I could do with him, I did with him. I don't want to show my Superman that I'm weak.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another reason.
Okay.
Never told my mother anything. I never did that.
Okay.
Looking back at it, to answer yes or no, I probably wish I did.
Okay. So why you decided to share now?
Because I helped one person and my wife told me to write the book. She says, you have to write the book because so many people and so many people listening either are suffering or know somebody that's suffering, that hopefully my story will inspire them to get help and to talk to somebody about what is going on in their head and what exactly is happening. I mean, I one day we'll talk about it either off the air or another podcast, but my business that I'm proud of, I have tremendous people that work for me. But when I first started, it was the most excruciating thing I've ever been through in my entire life. The mental aspect of going out and trying to see customers, forgetting about trying to sell them, just getting to them. All my customers were in New York, Pennsylvania, Jersey. You know, I had to get on planes or trains or automobile, whatever it might be. And that was the hardest part. Then when I got there, I had to put on the monkey suit and go in and try and break up a relationship. Talking like, you know, like that. So out of everything, that is what I'm most proud of. Okay. Not the embarrassing moments that happen during with vacations or with my friends and things like that, but building up this company, dealing with that.
Okay. So you said to your kid that the life doesn't have a manual. What does that mean?
Life doesn't come with a manual, meaning that I'm going to make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. We're all going to make mistakes. And it's learning from those mistakes. And if you don't learn from mistakes, shame on you. But discipline your kid or kids to know what to say to them, the right thing to say to them, the wrong thing to say to them, what to say, when not to talk, when to talk, how to discipline. Life doesn't come in instruction books. So you have to learn. But if you don't learn by when you make your mistake, you're going to just keep making it over and over and over again until you realize whatever you're saying is not working. So okay. That's what I mean by life doesn't come with instruction books.
Okay. So your first business was a gym, Champion Gym. Okay. So where you find the money to open it at that time?
When did I find the money?
Yeah.
Oh, good question. My father, as I said, had a blow molding company. I won't get into what he did, but he pushed somebody out of a building which he didn't need to do. So we had 20-something thousand square feet. And I was going to a gym along with everybody. You know, the gym, the gym that we own now is not even close to being the size of the gym that I had in the beginning. You got to remember something. I didn't have rent because it was a business that my father in his building, he owned. He owned the building. So I used to say to myself, geez, if I put equipment in this place, I get no rent. And I can have the biggest, best gym in Rhode Island. So fast forward, without boring you with the particulars, it took almost 6 months to a year, and I mean this, for me to talk my father into co-signing a $180,000 loan. Because in his mind, if I got involved with the gym, I was going to take time away from the plastics company.
Okay.
Which was not true, because I did everything at night. Me and this guy, Louie, built walls. We did everything.
Night shift, right?
Yeah. So if I had to work third shift, because I was the supervisor, so if I had to work third shift, I did during the day. If I had to work second shift, sometimes I couldn't do it at all because I had to work first, second, sometimes first, second, and third. So there was a delay. When I opened this gym, it was the best, and still to this day, it's the best gym, truthfully, that I've ever been to in my life.
Wait, is it New Jersey?
It was in Rhode Island.
Rhode Island, okay.
Apponaug, Warwick, Rhode Island. It's called Champion Sports Gym. People found out about it. NPC found out about it. I don't want to talk too much about it, but This guy, Jim Mannion, came. They wanted me to turn it into a Gold's Gym. And they wanted me to pay $7,000 a month, put Gold's merchandise in there.
Okay.
And they said I can make $50,000 a month with the amount of members I had, putting Gold's Gym in it. I made a decision not to do that. And it was the best decision I ever made because we did far more than $50,000 a month in merchandise. And it was, I paid off the loan, the $180,000 loan. I paid it off in less than 8 weeks. I had cops, off-duty cops that used to come to my gym. I gave them free memberships to help me with parking. The mayor's brother was a member. He helped me get parking permits. In Rhode Island, it's about the size of this office. Of course, I'm being facetious, but not too much. You know everybody.
Yeah, smart.
So I knew everybody. And again, I didn't go to college, so I worked and went out and bounced. So I started to get to know everybody. And some of the guys were nice guys. Some of the guys weren't nice guys. I had wise guys come in there. I had, I had 38 guys at one point going from Mr. Rhode Island. You know, you might have one person in our gym, Body Strong. You might have one person, maybe two going in a contest. This was 38 people. Powerlifting, when there was a powerlifting meet, we had 30 guys. And there was groups of 4, and we'd all compete with each other. Good fun. We'd bust beans, but it was good fun. And but.
Okay. So after Champion Gym, you close it and they open new companies or went to your dad again?
No, in 1986, I got married, so I had the gym. Came back, and my father's company, I don't want to keep talking bad about my father. My father, I teach this. There's good ego and bad ego.
Okay.
My father, I learned a lot in business of what not to do because of my dad. And the things he did wrong, I learned, even at my early age, 25, 26, it's wrong. And no matter if somebody said to him that was far more intelligent than me, it was wrong. Nope, we're doing it. So we went out of business in 1990. So in 1991, the only thing I knew was being a mechanic on plastics. So I went to work for a couple of companies and I worked on the machines, but all the guys that were making the money, the suits, the nice Rolexes and driving Porsches were all salesmen. So in my head, I'm going to be a salesman. So you want to hear one sales story? The very first sales story?
Yeah.
Okay, here's the very first sales story. It's a Jerry Lewis comedy. Petrified, going through what I went through. I had a brown suit downstairs because when we had vendors come to see our facility, I had to put a suit on to make it look like, they didn't need me working on the machines, but they did. And my father dressed, whatever. So the suit used to stay there. So this guy, John Felici, who's passed away, he decided, he was a salesman for our company. He was a sales rep. So he went out and got business, brought it into Lubin Plastics, which is my father's company, and we ran it. Well, unbeknownst to us, he started his own company. So he used to take business away. So we started to lose a lot of business. And there's a reason why. I won't get into it.
Okay.
So my father's company is starting to go out of business. Now I got to start selling. I got to figure something out here. So I put on a brown suit. I get a sample box and a briefcase. And I go to a manufacturing company down the road in Warwick called Bradford Soap. I don't even know if they use bottles. I don't even know what to say. I don't even have a business card. I'm petrified to go in there. But the woman says they have to see everybody. So I went in. Fast forward, I'm going through all these cubicles. I'm hyperventilating. I can't talk. I don't even know what I'm going to say when I go to see this guy. But he's on the phone, which makes it worse because now I got to wait. And I'm waiting. Finally, he gets up. He goes, "How you doing?" I don't know what his name. Let's say Tom Fox. I said, "Hi, I'm Brian Beneduce." And I got up. And when I got up, my foot hit his phone cord. And his phone pushed his coffee off his desk. His phone went off his desk. He had a DOS computer at that time. His keyboard went off, and I'm in the middle of the floor, and everybody around gets up and they're looking like this. I start venting. I'm like, nice to meet you, whatever. He says, just get the hell out of here. And that was literally my very first sales call. I never even told my father, but I wanted to try and help out. But then when I became a mechanic in another shop, that's when I tried to sell again on my own. And again, jumping around, but it wasn't fun. But the pressure was because we were married and we had kids. And
Exactly.
I not only was the anxiety there, but there was so much pressure on me to perform.
Family, yeah.
Yeah.
So you built a $2 multi-million company, Ocean State Packaging,
Yes.
and the Coriander Investment.
Coriander, yes. Well, Ocean State Packaging. So I started in my bedroom. I made phone call after phone call after phone call. Nobody wants to see you.
Wow.
And finally, I went to see one person and I gave him a card. Now, all the companies are in Jersey, New York. I'm in Rhode Island. There's nobody in Rhode Island. Everybody is in the metropolitan area. I can't stay over in a hotel because I just don't know so I got to go back. Trying to get over bridges. So if it was a 3.5 hour drive, I'd give myself 8 hours to get there, even if I had to sit in the parking lot, because I knew there were going to be times where I'd get off to go to a hospital. And I knew that I was going to hyperventilate. I knew they were going to, and I waited. It was called bright red and dull red. So when I saw dull red lights, that meant there was no traffic. If I saw bright red lights, that meant there was traffic. And this is going over a bridge. Yeah. So I'd get beeped at because I'd wait and wait and wait and wait and wait. Finally, there'd be a lot of cars in front of me, and I'd start going. Now I'm listening to the radio. I'm hyperventilating just to get over to George Washington Bridge. This is nothing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it sucked. It sucked. And then I got there, and then the whole. I mean, I don't know how much time you want me to put into it, but it just it sucked. So yeah. So I went from that.
Yeah.
To thousands of people, hundreds of people, probably the top 3 or 5 company.
Yeah.
And a private equity company bought us, and me and my brother, who works for me now at this time. So he's basically run it for the last 12 years, 15 years. And so that's what started, we moved here 3 years ago when my daughter left and my son left, and he got married, she got married. And we bought a little bigger house here in Chatham. But you need a purpose because you got to have something to do. And this opportunity came up for Body Strong. So yeah, so that's when I got.
Okay. How did you deal with the company, multi-million-dollar company, with the anxiety problem?
It's a good question. It's
not easy.
It is. It's because there's so many stories I could tell you about excuses and times that I used to go to an airport just so people can hear me. We used to have those big phones, like the James Bond's phones, and the kind you plugged into the car to charge. And I couldn't make it. I couldn't go down to see him. And I'd make an excuse. So I'd go to the airport and I'd get on the phone and I'd say, I'm sorry, my plane got canceled. Do it another time. Well, maybe I had the strength to go down and see him. But yeah, I used to go to these companies. And every time I went in to see them, hopefully there was only one person. And then I make an excuse to, oh, you know what? I forgot to get my business cards. Can I just run out? They didn't even want to see me in the first place.
Yeah.
But I guess it's just grit. It sounds crazy, but that's why when people tell me they can't, what I teach now is business. And not to get away from your question, but I used to take my kids' pictures, put them in the car with me. Even when they were small, out of my phone, pictures. And people say, I gave somebody this analogy the other day. It's a car dealer, and he's supposed to sell 20 cars a month. And I offered to help him out, a paid conversation. And I said, you can't sell 20 cars a month. He says, Brian, that's ridiculous. I can't sell 15. I said, do you like doing what you're doing? He said, yeah. You have any kids? He says, yeah. How about I take your 2 kids? I won't mention their names. And I take them and I put them in my basement until you sell 20 cars a month. Do you think you could do it? He owns 3 dealerships now. From a guy that couldn't sell cars, he owns 3 dealerships. So when people say you can't do it, and again, this is gonna sound corny, I had to do it. And I fought it and I fought it. And I wish I knew now what I knew, I wish I knew then what I knew now about let it come and laugh at it.
Yeah.
Because I would have done that. It would have taken a lot. But I did. I fought it and I fought it. I made excuses and I fought it. And I probably would have doubled my company if I didn't have this. Because I was very good at what I did. The reason I was good at what I did was selling a bottle that I used to work on the machines that made them. 99% of the salesmen came out of college and were hired. They didn't know how to make bottles. So for me to compete against them, I used to talk about the ins and outs of these things.
Yeah.
And when you ask me how I became fairly successful at this, it's because I truly believe I knew more than most people. Even though I had this beast on my back, I was able to verbalize enough where they could trust me. And once they learned to trust me, now it was pricing and how I got along with the vendors. But the amount of people that try to screw you when you're young, try to go direct, because we're brokers.
Yeah.
So I buy from A, I'm B, I sell to C. You put a little percentage on it, you move to the next guy. You move to the next guy. We started selling 1 truck every 2 weeks. Now we sell between 45 and 60 a week.
Wow.
And there's 100,000 bottles in the truck. Yeah, we're in the billions of bottles. Billions.
So, what's the secret to be a good seller with anxiety problem?
Good salesman with an anxiety problem?
Yeah. One thing is be a good seller.
Well, the funny thing is,
regular one, and another thing.
do you know how many people ask me, if you had this problem, why did you sell?
Nice question. Yeah.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I said, because deep down in my head, I wanted to be successful. And the only way I knew how to become successful was doing something that I knew. And the thing I knew was plastics. And the thing that would make it successful is selling it. The problem was the bridge between knowing what I know and selling what I know. So there is no real answer to that, because it's going to sound corny when I say you just keep going. It's like anything else. Everybody's got something, whether it be a mental situation, physical situation, whatever it is. And if that's going to hold you back, you're not going to become successful. You might do okay.
Yeah.
But there was another level of okay that I wanted to get to.
For sure.
And I wanted to prove it to me. It wasn't I could care less about anybody else what they thought of me, because they don't know what I went through. The people that know me do now, because I wrote a book. But the people that don't know me just read the book and it's like, wow, that's pretty cool. So, and they move on. But the people that do know me, they can't believe it, because a lot of these guys I broke bread with, a lot of these guys I drank with, a lot of these guys, like you.
Yeah.
I won't get into anything else. I'll just say that kind of thing. So.
Okay. What do you feel when you ride a motorcycle? Because I know that you love motorcycle. What do you feel?
Years
today?
ago? Oh, today?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Nothing.
I mean, I feel great.
Nothing.
No. But my first trip, you're probably talking about the ride to Key West.
Yeah.
That was me trying to say to myself, I'm over this. And that's probably why you said the motorcycle. That was my first test to see if I can use my own tools, deal with this beast. And I learned that it's going to take a long time, because there's a 7-mile bridge. Now, I told you everything I know about bridges. I mean, it's the fear of bridges. So I'm on my motorcycle and I stayed over at Isla Morada. Isla Morada is 60-something miles away from Key West. And there's a 7-mile bridge I got to go over. Well, that night I had an anxiety, major. I couldn't sleep. I thought about the bridge. So as I was going over the bridge the next day, I was screaming.
Damn.
First part of screaming was petrified. And I was like, fuck you, come on. And then I got to the middle, and I hate to sound corny, but I just started crying.
Which level it was?
Hmm?
Which level anxiety? Level
It was 9 when I started.
9.
When I started.
So high, man.
It was so bad that, because you shake.
Yeah.
It's your adrenaline. So the bars were shaking. You can't turn around. There's one way in and one way out.
Exactly, yeah.
You can't like wait for cars and there's a barrier. So once you go, you go.
Mm-hmm.
And I got halfway and I started bawling my eyes out, and it went down to a 7, to a 5. I got off at its marathon, and I got off of the bridge. I stopped. And again, it sounds crazy. I just looked at it and just bawled my eyes out, going, I can't believe I did that. And I tried to let it come. And that's when I said, okay, so I've had it this long. It's going to take a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Even planes and elevators. Now, on a plane, it'll hit a 7 for about 4 seconds, and then it goes right back down again.
Okay.
And I can't sleep on a plane. But we just talked about this when I came back. I was up for 35 hours because I can't sleep. So you leave at 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
You fly all night. And it's because I think when I wake up, I'm going to realize, oh God, I'm on a plane. And I don't want to go back to where I was. So I say, you know what? I'll just stay awake. I'm the only iPad.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's there, and we were in business class, so there's 100 people there, and slowly but surely, all the lights are going out, and I'm the only iPad that's on. It was actually very funny, but
iPad was your tool to try to control.
Yeah, because you could sleep, you can lay down there in business class, and I'm sitting there, my wife's sleeping next to me. I had my son and my daughter-in-law across the aisle, and they're all under blankets, and they're all sleeping, and I'm up watching Seinfeld for the 50th time. And then I'm playing this and I'm playing that. But yeah, and then when we landed.
You never ask yourself why I can do stuff that everybody do it.
On my honeymoon, we were 2 hours into it. I was so scared. I'm watching people. I'm watching people read the magazines, read the paper, sleep. My wife was asleep in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
She's a flight attendant.
She feel home, yeah.
I wanted the plane, I swear to you, and I think I even wrote it. I wanted the plane, I mean this, to nosedive so bad so that people would understand what I was thinking that whole 6-hour flight. The whole time. Petrified. I landed, I fell asleep because I was so drained.
Yeah.
I didn't know what the hell was wrong.
But not drink anymore. Not beer anymore.
Me? Oh, I drink a lot. But I drink for a different reason.
Yeah.
I don't
but
drink.
Not for the anxiety.
No,
Okay.
no. I never drink on a plane.
Mm-hmm.
I never drink. If I have to give speeches, I never ever have a drink. In fact, Dean College, they had all kinds of beers and stuff. I said, no. How can I tell people, how can I tell people out in the audience not to suppress your anxiety with alcohol? And I'm going to sit here and have a couple beers. Oh, no, I never, ever do that.
Okay. So you wrote 2 books, Scared to Death, and another one is Anxiety Warrior. Okay. What about number 3? We working on it?
I don't think there's going to be a third book.
No.
There's really nothing, if I do write a book, it'll be a business book. It'll be more about how to get involved with business, how to succeed in business. There's hundreds and thousands of books about how to succeed in business.
Yeah, there's 1,000 books.
Right. And this Scared to Death Doing Anyway is a title I came up with. And Stephen Porter is the head author in Rhode Island. I just looked him up, found him. And it took a while because I used to say pants. He'd say, here from 8 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night and not even cover the first year. And that's when you asked me that, how did you do it? It was just constant persistence, perseverance, the same words people go through when anybody has a problem, whether it be a physical situation, whether it be a mental illness. You see it all over TV now. The gymnast, she just had a mental, you see it with basketball players. How about the pitcher for the Red Sox? I can't remember his name, evades me now, but he had anxiety problems. He couldn't pitch. It's so prevalent now. Love, that's his name for the basketball player. That, in fact, what do they call it?
Google.
No, we DM'd so we talked to each other on Instagram.
Instagram, yeah.
And he's a professional, I think it was an all-star. He couldn't play because of anxiety. And so people thought I would go into coaching people how to get rid of anxiety. The only thing I could do is tell them what I've done to help me. But psychiatrists now are trained to be able to handle these people. I'm not trained to do that.
So what about taking medicine, some pill? Do you advise people to take that?
If it helps them, if it makes
But it's
them
a solution. Why do?
I look at it this way: if you've got diabetes and this medicine's going to help you, then take it. If you tried and you just can't do it, take it, because it's not quantity, it's quality of life. We've all heard that. So if it makes you feel better, then take it. Me personally, I didn't want a crutch. I needed something that I could deal with myself. It's like any problem. It's like fixing a machine. There's always a way. There's got to be something that could fix that problem. Unless the man upstairs says, sorry, there's nothing I can do for you, you're out. Yeah. But if you can do it, I won't say if I can do it, you can too, because that's not fair.
Like, you never use a medicine?
No.
No? You don't need
No. In the beginning, they gave me Xanax fly. Okay, because I was flying, this would work. Xanax is one of those things where you take it for a specific reason. So I took it. I didn't want to take it because if it didn't work, I was like, oh, it's going to get worse. So he prescribed me Xanax. I took one. Only supposed to take 2 if necessary. I took 4. It made it worse. When I landed, I slept for 24 hours.
Wow.
Because it didn't work on the plane. I think people's chemistry and their makeup is different. It's like what separates a Navy SEAL from a regular person? What separates an MMA fighter from a regular fighter?
Yeah.
Or a professional athlete from a guy that can't make it to that point? And it's either God-given talent or it's something up there. And I'd like to believe that I had a little bit more than the next guy.
Okay.
Because there are salesmen out there that are good. But there's also salesmen out there that didn't have to deal with the shit that I had to deal with to get to where I am in my life.
Okay.
And it's not an excuse because here I am. It's just the way I think.
Okay. I know that you play drum. You still play?
Yeah, still play.
Where you play? What time?
No,
You don't have a time.
no, I got a really nice kid actually, DW, but it's no, I played the trumpet, I played the drums. I played the drums when I was a kid, and then I love music. Love music. Love the trumpet.
Did you learn alone or went to school?
School. I learned again. I didn't go to college, but I played in high school.
Okay.
And this is another cool thing. I never could read music. Now, I could read it.
Yeah.
But I could hear it and play it. So I played sports, football, basketball, baseball, but I also wanted to play the drums and I wanted to play the trumpet. More the trumpet, because I love it. I love to play the music. Drums, not music. Brother is rhythm. So Mr. Pelosi, our music teacher, got mad at me because I never practiced. Because when I practiced, I used to practice, sports.
Yeah.
And when we used to have to practice for, jazz band or symphonic band or whatever, I wasn't in a marching band, I was playing football. So there was always that bitter taste in his mouth that, you got to practice. And I'm like, fuck you, I can play it better than that guy. And it proved it because we went to a competition in Berkeley, at Berkeley Music. I was the number one trumpet player. We came in third out of how many? We won a trip to England. We went to England. Yeah, it was bad.
I'm not a pro, yeah.
I'm not going to tell you about that trip. Me and a buddy lost our passports because we were out all night, all this crap. But so, yeah, I don't play the trumpet anymore. I play the drums and downstairs by myself, have a few beers. In my head, there's 10,000 people in the audience, all with their lighters going or now their phones. But yeah, so I love music. My hobbies are music, working out, and riding my motorcycle. Okay. And yeah.
Other your routine?
My routine?
Yeah, your day routine. When you wake up, what do you do? Go to gym or read or
coffee? I wake up, read the paper, coffee with my wife. She'll make me breakfast every single morning unless she's away. I have 6 to 8 egg whites. I have toast and peanut butter every single time. Even when we go away, I have the same thing every single day. And then I'll go to the gym. Now that I own the gym.
Yeah.
I'll do what we got to do. I'll do paperwork. A lot of times I take it home, and I'll usually work out. Now it's slow because it's the fall, winter.
Yeah, not the season.
But at this time, you got to kind of plan it when you have an open machine in the summertime. I'm sorry, the summertime because it's crowded, as you know.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I usually before I came here, I worked out. My workouts are not long. But the thing that takes the longest is the aerobic part. But the workouts are, if they're 30 minutes, that's a long time. Because I still do the same thing I did 25, 30 years ago.
But what about nutrition? You have a nutrition plan?
Yeah, eat. I eat very well. I eat better than most people. My weight comes from beers. I drink beer. So if I'm going to eat bad,
is it like a five time a day? Or
it's usually
a
like
lot
my
of
wife's
calories, something like that.
No, I'm not like I know you had it with Corey. Corey does 5 to 7 meals a day. I won't have that many meals because I'm older. Your metabolism slows down when you're older. So if I had five,
strong.
Yeah, yeah, I could still move weight, but it's going to come to an end.
Yeah.
But as long as I can, as long as I can lift. And I had a guy the other day ask me to train him. And I said, I don't train people anymore. And he asked why. And I told him because I own the gym. And because I own the gym, insurance purposes.
Yeah.
Because if you get hurt while I'm training you, I'm an owner. And the trainers, other than Corey, because he's a trainer too, the trainers in my gym don't work for me. They're independent contractors. And plus, there's not many people that are going to like the way I train. They want to train differently.
Yeah.
Because I've had people train with me.
Like our old school way.
It's old school. It's Dorian Yates. It's Mike Metzer. It's just very heavy, very low reps. It's just, and I have injuries, but I can do it.
Low rep for you is between 10, 12 or
no,
10, 8,
God, no.
8, 10?
No, it's 5 to 6.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I did, I can't believe we're talking about this. I did chest. I did 6 sets for chest. And I did set of 6, set of 5. Because when I move up, if I get 3 6s, I move up. But if I get 6, 6, 5, I stay there until I get 3 6s.
Yeah.
And I did 6, 6, 5, 4 because I moved up. Then I did 6, 6, 6. And then I did 3 sets of triceps. Heavy, heavy, heavy. Those are arms, biceps are 6 to 8, 6 to 8. And I do 2 to 3 sets. That's it.
Okay. So, Brian, thanks a lot to come. So, do you want to deliver the last message or for somebody that suffers with anxiety?
Well, the only message I really want to, I talked about it, but I really want to say and express as hard as I possibly can that if you have it, if you suffer from anxiety, if you have panic attacks, and I've heard so many people tell me, oh, I have panic attacks. And my question is, what are you doing for it? Well, they come and they go. Well, if they come, and they go, why are they coming? Fix it before they come and don't go. You know what I mean? It's like, fix it. So talk about it. That's my message. Talk about it. Don't keep it to yourself. Drop your ego. We just talked about, I can lift as much as I want. I've been very successful in business humbly, and I'm blessed. I'm at the top where I need to be. And I'm also showing vulnerability. So years ago, guys that show vulnerability showed weakness. I'm not showing weakness. I'm showing that I'm normal, because it is a mental illness. It can be helped. So go get help. And that's really my message. Just seek help.
Okay. Thank you, Brian.
My pleasure.
I really appreciate your presence here and come here to share your experience with us. And I hope I can call you again to talk about business, probably. Okay.
My pleasure, my friend.
Thank you.